In the stillness of a late-night shift, the hospital felt almost peaceful until chaos shattered the calm. A wild wolf had broken through the hospital's front doors, turning the quiet hallways into scenes of panic. Staff and patients fled, their eyes wide with shock as the animal prowled through the sterile corridors. But in the midst of the uproar, one nurse, Katie, found herself frozen, unable to look away from the surprising sight of the wolf carrying something tiny in its mouth. She couldn't quite make it out, but it looked like a small, fragile animal. Katie's curiosity quickly overcame her fear. While others hid, she moved closer, recognizing that the wolf wasn't aggressive but strangely calm, almost purposeful. The sight of a wolf, an animal normally feared, tenderly carrying a helpless creature, stirred something in her. Katie decided to take a bold step, guiding the wolf into an empty room, securing the door to buy time and figure out how to help. Her heart raced as she watched the wolf, but she remained steady, realizing that this wasn't just about a wild animal wandering in. There was something much deeper happening here. The wolf's eyes were intense, a mix of wild caution and silent pleading. Katie adjusted her posture, keeping her movements slow and non-threatening. She could sense that the wolf was looking for help, not harm, but the situation was too unusual for her to handle alone, so she rushed out of the room, urgently seeking assistance from her fellow hospital staff. To her frustration, most were too frightened to act, insisting they wait for the police. But Katie wasn't ready to abandon the wolf and its small companion. Just when her hopes were fading, she found Steve, a surgeon known for his courage and compassion. Without hesitation, Steve agreed to help, and together they returned to the room, where the wolf greeted them with a sorrowful howl that echoed the hospital halls. It was a cry filled with urgency and desperation, making Katie even more determined to uncover the mystery behind this unusual scene. The wolf's mournful howl resonated deeply with Katie and Steve, amplifying their determination to help. But just as they were about to approach the wolf, a team of police officers arrived, their presence heightening the tension. They moved cautiously, warning Katie and Steve to keep their distance. The officers were ready to intervene, but Katie stepped forward, pleading with them to understand that the wolf wasn't a threat, but seemed to be seeking help. As she spoke, the wolf did something remarkable. It slowly moved towards the door, stopping to look back at Katie, as if inviting her to follow. Katie's heart raced as she realized that the wolf was leading her somewhere. She felt a strange sense of trust and curiosity, and though the police hesitated, she was resolute. She told them, "I need to see where it goes," her voice filled with conviction. With Steve and a few officers cautiously trailing behind, Katie followed the wolf through the quiet hospital halls and out into the night, where it led them straight towards the nearby woods. The dense trees and eerie silence filled her with both excitement and a touch of fear, but she knew she had to keep going. The wolf guided them deeper into the forest, and Katie couldn't help but feel that this was more than a simple coincidence. She quickly called Peter, a wildlife expert she trusted, to explain the situation. "A wolf has led me into the woods, and it's carrying a small creature with it," she said, her voice trembling with both awe and urgency. Peter's concern was palpable, urging her to stay safe, but Katie couldn't abandon the journey now. She sent him her location and continued to follow the wolf's determined pace, feeling that something important lay ahead. The deeper they went, the stranger everything felt. The forest was filled with sounds Katie couldn't identify, each rustle making her nerves tingle. Just as she thought about turning back, a loud noise pierced the silence, making her jump. Her phone buzzed with a faint signal, Peter's voice barely audible. She faced a critical choice, heed Peter's cautious warning or trust her instincts, and continued deeper into the woods, driven by the urgency in the wolf's eyes. Katie took a deep breath, feeling her courage grow. She chose to trust the wolf, knowing she was close to discovering something significant. The wolf led her to an old abandoned well deep within the forest. As she peered into the dark pit, Katie could hear faint, distressed cries from below. Realizing that the wolf had brought her here for a reason, she felt a surge of responsibility to help. Peter arrived just in time, his face showing concern mixed with awe at the unfolding mystery. As he examined the well, he quickly formulated a plan, pulling a strong rope from his bag. "I'll go down and see what's in there," he said, his voice steady but tense. Katie held the rope tightly, her hands trembling as she supported Peter's descent. The forest around them was silent, every sound amplified by the night's stillness. Katie's heart pounded as she watched Peter disappear into the darkness below, her mind racing with fears of what he might find. Minutes passed, each one stretching longer than the last. Suddenly, Peter's voice echoed up from the well, filled with a mixture of shock and urgency. "Katie, you have to see this." Her heart leapt as she knelt by the edge, peering down to see him surrounded by small, frightened creatures with glowing eyes. They were tiny animals, just like the one the wolf had brought to the hospital. But dozens more were trapped in the well, their soft cries filling the dark space. Peter gently scooped up the first creature and secured it in his jacket. One by one, he handed the small animals up to Katie, who carefully placed them on the ground. Each time he ascended, Katie felt a swell of relief, but her nerves were on edge. She couldn't shake the feeling that the wolf had brought her to these creatures on purpose, trusting her to help. After a long, tense effort, the last of the creatures was finally safe above ground. But there was one more problem. They needed someone to carry the last, most fragile one. Katie looked at the wolf, her eyes meeting its gaze, and she understood. Carefully, she handed the small creature to the wolf, who held it gently in its mouth, ready to continue this strange and urgent journey. With the fragile creature secure in the wolf's jaws, Katie, Peter, and the wolf began their journey back toward the hospital. The moon cast an eerie light on the path ahead, giving the forest a mysterious glow that only added to the gravity of their mission. As they moved, Katie's mind raced with questions. Who were these strange animals, and why had the wolf chosen her to help them? She knew that whatever the reason, there was no turning back now. The urgency in the wolf's eyes pushed her forward, as if it understood the creatures' lives depended on them. They finally reached the hospital, where Katie and Peter rushed the creatures into the emergency room. Staff and patients watched in stunned silence, unable to believe what they were seeing. Thankfully, a veterinarian was on duty that night, and Katie quickly explained the situation to him, her voice brimming with urgency. The vet's face softened as he assessed the animals, realizing the gravity of their condition. He instructed Katie and Peter to place the creatures on exam tables, his hands already working to provide immediate care. "Please wait outside," he told Katie gently but firmly. "I need space to work." Katie hesitated, wanting to stay, but she understood and retreated to the waiting room with Peter. They sat in tense silence, watching the clock tick slowly, each second dragging. Katie's heart was heavy with worry. She had been through so much to bring these animals to safety. Now all she could do was hope. Time stretched on as they waited, and Katie's mind filled with a whirlwind of thoughts. She worried about the creature's fragile condition and wondered if the wolf had any family ties to them. The mysterious connection between the wolf and these animals intrigued her, making the weight of the situation feel even more profound. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the vet emerged with a calm smile. "They're safe," he announced. Katie let out a sigh of relief, her heart filling with gratitude. The vet explained that the animals were a rare crossbreed between a wolf and a wild dog, creatures who likely relied on the wolf for protection. Katie's determination not to let them return to the wild was met with the vet's approval. They needed a place where they could be cared for and protected. Relief washed over Katie as she listened to the vet explain the creature's unique basics on. They were a rare, delicate blend of wolf and wild dog, vulnerable in ways most wild animals weren't. The vet's gentle tone underscored how special they were and the urgency of finding a safe place for them to thrive. Katie and Peter exchanged glances, both understanding that returning these creatures to the wilderness wasn't an option. They needed a secure home, a place where they could recover and be protected from harm. Fortunately, Peter had connections at a local animal sanctuary that specialized in caring for endangered and unique animals. It was the perfect solution, offering these creatures a chance to live peacefully and safely. With a quick phone call, Peter arranged for the sanctuary to take them in, and the sanctuary staff welcomed the idea, eager to help such extraordinary beings. As the plan solidified, Katie felt the weight of the night's events have begun to lift, knowing the animals would have a secure place to call home. Over the following days, Katie visited the sanctuary, often drawn by an inexplicable bond with the creatures she had helped rescue. Each visit deepened her connection to them, and she marveled at their gentle, trusting nature. They remembered her, too. Whenever she approached, they would watch her with those wide, knowing eyes, their soft cries becoming excited whimpers. Even the wolf had stayed close by, watching over its unusual family as they settled into their new environment. As Katie spent time with them, she reflected on the strange journey that had brought her here. From the moment the wolf had entered the hospital, she had felt a pull she couldn't explain. It was as though the wolf had sensed her compassion and trusted her to protect the vulnerable creatures it cared for. That night had started with fear, but it ended with an unbreakable bond, one that bridged the gap between human and animal in a way she'd never thought possible. The experience transformed Katie. She realized that true courage often means following the unknown, guided only by the instinct to help and protect. Looking into the grateful eyes of the animals she had saved, Katie knew she had found something deeper than a simple act of kindness. She had discovered a connection that would forever shape her life. As Katie continued to visit the sanctuary, her bond with the creatures grew stronger. The sanctuary staff noticed how the animals responded to her presence, their anxious cries softening into contented murmurs whenever she was near. Even the wolf, a naturally cautious guardian, seemed to relax around her, acknowledging Katie as part of its small, unusual family. Each visit was a reminder of the incredible journey they had shared, and Katie felt her heart swell with a love she hadn't expected to find. The days following the rescue turned into weeks, and Katie watched the creatures blossom in their new home. They played, explored, and gradually shed the fears they had carried with them from the dark confines of the well. Each time she looked into their bright, curious eyes, she was reminded of that unforgettable night in the forest when she had chosen to follow the wolf into the unknown. Reflecting on everything that had happened, Katie knew that the experience had changed her. She had discovered strength she didn't know she had, and a compassion that bridged the divide between herself and the wild creatures she had once feared. The wolf had entrusted her with its most precious responsibility, and she had proven herself worthy of that trust. In return, she had gained a new sense of purpose, one that filled her with warmth and gratitude. Her choice to follow the wolf had transformed a moment of fear into a lifelong connection with these extraordinary animals. She had come to understand that sometimes the most incredible bonds are formed when we least expect them, and that true courage is often found in acts of kindness and understanding. Katie left the sanctuary that day with a full heart, knowing she would continue to be a part of their lives. As she walked away, the wolf watched her, a silent promise passing between them. Katie knew that this was just the beginning of their journey together. Her heart was forever intertwined with theirs, and she would always be there to protect and cherish her new friends. This incredible journey had shown her that love and compassion have the power to cross any boundary, even the ones we never imagined. And as she left the sanctuary, she whispered a promise to herself to always follow the path of kindness wherever it might lead.